we can just go through that.
Oh yeah, I had it on my phone.
Okay. I can
That's
even
okay.
read through it too.
Okay, that'd be
Sure.
easy.
But
Oh, I know it. I'll access it online. No problem.
okay, cool. I'm just like, I guess I'm assuming leadership for this week just because it's
Yeah.
been backfiring
That's
though. My email wasn't working and I don't think I was reaching you guys and it was really confusing. And I
okay.
And
realized, oh, it's not going. So
well, it's only us three, right?
yeah, Julia was gonna be here. I spoke with her yesterday and she's the one that suggested 8 o'clock, but I don't know where she's at. But at this point, I feel like I mean, we probably just need to get going because it's late, and I
Okay.
don't want to like set you guys behind. So
Sure.
No, it's like the time zone difference. Maybe she got confused with that. I don't know where she lives, so.
no, she lives in Mountain Standard Time.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
So
McKenna,
I
are you like the agenda I have is on my. Well, hold on. You know what?
here's what I'll do. Here, look at that. How about that?
You can share the screen. Yep.
Share my screen.
Oh, you know
Now
what?
we can go live. Are we live? We probably are live now.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay.
We are.
Oh, okay, the group is okay. The group discussion. Okay, I got it.
I'm just inviting Julia one more time in hopes that she will see this and hear our cry. But yeah, does one of you want to say the prayer?
Sure, no problem. I'll do it.
Go for it.
Okay. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful that we have this opportunity to meet together as fellow classmates. We're grateful for the opportunities that were offered through the university. We're thankful that we're grateful and grateful for the blessing thou continuously give. Please bless us this evening and open this meeting and help us to be able to clear our minds and express our thoughts clearly. And we say these things humbly in thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Ted. Okay, so we've got about an hour. So basically, quick synopsis of the case. I'm assuming both of you read it, but I'll just give that quick. But it basically, the production manager named Shelbourne came to the what is she, like the CEO or something? Can't remember. She's the
to Mary,
vice president of consumer products. Yeah, and complained that the new brand manager was a little too abrupt with his team and was too picky about the labels that they were printing for the X Games, and so Mary Griffin is confused because she thought York was doing a lot of really great things and just didn't expect that type of behavior out of him.
Correct.
So now she has to decide what she's going to do. So, what did you guys think of the case study?
Go ahead, Elvis.
Well, that was pretty much simple. The guy, York, he was a perfectionist. He was good on what he was doing, but didn't care about his subordinates. He didn't care about what he had to go through. I mean, the point is, will the meaning justify his abuse of power, or I mean, was be the cause? You had the perfect brand, the perfect image, not done in 50 years, but was it worth it to go over all the trouble? That was all the main point I got out of the case.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that York was just simply just an arrogant guy who was abusing his power?
My conception was that he was a narcissist, like arrogant, and he's like, I know what's best, and when he needs something, he went to the managers. It would be all nice and sweet, and when go back to his people he was underneath him, he would just like crush them.
I
Interesting.
I
Yeah, what
think
do you think, Ted?
I think that he was when he was in marketing, he was very good, and he was driven, and of course he only had to, he had a team around him, but he had a manager above him. Now he's taken on a managerial position that, um, I personally think he might not be the right fit for, or he needs to he needs to be coached a little bit so he understands how to relate to other people, because
Mhm.
marketing, you're competing, and when you become part of management, you're no longer competing with the people you're working with. You're asking them for ideas, and you're developing a team. And of course, he has no idea what teamwork is, obviously, by what he's doing, because he's expecting people to do things that they might not be capable of doing, and so he in turn needs to learn how to coach himself. So he needs to be coached. He needs to learn how to coach people. That's my.
Yeah, I mean, he was good on what he was doing, and what he did was great. You cannot judge his skills as worker, but his interpersonal skills were the one he was lacking with.
Yeah, and
Right.
I don't think you send to the guy, demote him or send him to the curb, because he's had a few incidents, and so of course it's Mary's job to nip it in the bud, and what some of our readings said, there needs to be what they call collaborative exploration.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like your guys' points. They're really interesting, and I think it really shows the difference between how my brain works and how your brain works, because I actually focused a lot on this part, this third paragraph right here, where Griffin thanks Shelbourne, and then she's kind of confused because she's perplexed because York is a great employee, and he's been working really hard to re-energize the 150-year-old brand. So that kind of implies that they had taken a dip. Maybe they had slowed down for a while, and now he's really getting things going again. And so my perception of the whole thing was, oh, there was just a miscommunication. Shelbourne is probably a little too overprotective, a little too sensitive, and York probably just didn't communicate clear enough. So I was like on the side of, oh, they're both really good, and so my whole I wrote my paper on this about how like the manager Mary Griffin needs to take both of them aside, get both sides of the story, and figure out where the miscommunication happened, and then coach both of them on it, because I felt like it was just as much Shelbourne's responsibility to know what York's expectations were. But your guys' points are really interesting, and I hadn't thought of it in that
I
that
I
perspective.
like
Cool.
I like your points, McKenna, but if you look at it, she herself observed that he belittled um, his team members, in a meeting, and so I think that the whole point of this is that we can come to. I don't know that we can come to a conclusion, because we haven't got the answers, but I think the whole thing about this is that we're learning to listen. Okay, and so we're listening to each other's ideas, and this is what the case study is
Mhm.
um, about working with each other. And if we look at what we're doing, three of us are sitting here discussing this, how this can be solved, and you'd think that, wow, if the team members could sit together and have a discussion like this, they could probably solve it. So I think that
Yeah.
one of the big things is that when you go into something like this, you can't go you can't go into it with your mind, like Mary can't go in and say, hey, I've got my mind fixed on what the problem is. She needs to find out what the problem is, because who knows, he might have something going on at home that's making it easy. There are a lot of things. So you always have to, when you're going into a situation like this, and you're going to um, approach somebody and say, hey, what's going on, you have to have an open mind. and so an open-minded person is approaching York, who at the moment doesn't understand what an open mind is. So anyway, I'll shut up and let you guys talk.
No, I think that's wonderful. I'm curious about Elvis's perspective because from what you were saying, you're pretty much under the assumption that he is the hot shot, quote unquote, that Shelbourne, that he's narcissistic, that he's arrogant. So do you feel like with this coaching approach, this collaborative approach, do you feel like York would actually like comply with it if you were to go talk to Griffin? Or do you think that he would just say what she wants to hear and then keep going on with his ways? What do you think, Elvis?
Yeah, well, I refer this even was another case when, let's say, was someone dropped the ball and the detail matters when it's mentioned in the case. And he's not just like, oh, you dropped the ball, now we can build where we left and let's forget about this, we learned a lesson. No, he just keep pushing on it. It's like, look, you did this wrong, don't do this again. And he just keep pushing on that guy. Like, and then instead of like saying the whole team was part of we just dropped the ball and we're gonna fix this, he just says, those guys there, they dropped the ball.
Correct. And here's one thing that we need to think about also. He's now the new manager, the new team leader, okay? And when you're a team leader, you have to take responsibility because you're the person who's here's my team's presentation. And then rather than take any responsibility of a mistake on a presentation, he blames other people, okay? And so there's some management skills he needs to learn because I don't think he realizes that he's leading a team. He feels like he's competing with his team when he makes a comment like that. I've run into the same exact situation in business where I was on a team that was probably one of the most successful. Well, it's the most successful our company ever had, and we had some people retire, and we had a new team leader manager came in, and it all became about him, and everybody kind of got thrown to the curb, and so all of us are gone, and he's there trying to rebuild because he would never understand that he needs to collaborate with the people he works with because that's what makes the company successful. So that's rather than so he's in a situation where senior management needs to look at that, Mary, and say, okay, we need to pull this back a bit. And so I think we're here to discuss we need to discuss what should Mary do, right?
Right. That's what I was gonna say is how do you approach somebody who is also a leader and tell them that they're doing something wrong and that they need to adjust that? I think that's where Mary really has to be the ultimate example because going back to the different leadership styles that we learned about last week, it's clear that that York is more of a pace setting, but mixed with a few other styles, a little tyrannic if that makes sense. But Mary needs to come in and be a coach to him in order to show him what coaching leadership is like.
Right.
And if it's okay, I'll just share a little bit of my thoughts on that. I felt like I was going through the feedback and coaching workshop, and
Perfect.
some of the things that stuck out to me were, it kind of builds upon itself. It talks about initially the most important thing is to start with positive reinforcement and start with positive feedback. Because when you start with positive feedback, you gain the trust of the recipient. And I'll see if I can find the slide. But you guys probably remember what I'm talking about, I'm sure.
No, I saw it on there. I think that, of course, she's going to prepare for this meeting, but like you said, you're going to do some positive feedback, and you're also, he's a type A personality, and so when you approach somebody like that, you need to show a little, show a little empathy for the individual so that individual doesn't feel threatened right off the bat.
Can you explain, Ted, can you explain a type A personality to me? Because I hear that said all the time, but I actually don't know how to register it in my brain.
Okay, a type A personality is a forceful individual, a leader who basically takes the front and takes the lead, and a lot of times a type A person wants it their way or it's the highway.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm familiar with the color personalities, like, so that's a
Right.
very red personality.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like that's the hardest person to talk to about these type of things. Yeah, you gotta soften them up. You've got to earn their trust.
Right.
I think what she could start out by doing is certainly, it talks here about being direct, identifying specific behavior and its impact. I think she could definitely talk about the good things that he's done with the brand. I mean, he's essentially created a very strong partnership with the X Games, or it's almost about to be very strong. It sounds like
Right.
it's on the cusp of that right now, and so that's why maybe he's just in a very stressful situation, and
Right.
maybe even she might not even have to provide a ton of criticism later on, because as she provides this positive feedback, it may give him such a sigh of relief that, okay, I am doing okay, and maybe he just took out his stress for, are we going to make this partnership or not? Maybe he just took out that stress on to
Right.
the production team, and if he just hears like, I'm doing okay, it may change his whole demeanor. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, when I look at this, I first of all think, okay, there's a brand, okay, Derby Foods, and number one, Derby Foods is when people look at a company, they see the name Derby Foods, okay, and so Cork needs to make sure that he puts himself in a place so that he represents the company rather than himself, and so it almost looks like he thinks that he's the one that's making I think he's a little proud of himself, felt like he's really made the company come alive again, but he also needs to realize that there's a board of directors in a company, and a board of directors represents the brand. And so you hear this, well, I've heard this on high council and things like that. We protect the good name of the church. Well, in a business, you protect you protect that, because that brand name is everything, and without that brand name, nobody has a job.
That's true.
So Mary has to approach that and let him understand that yes, he's important to the company, but the brand is the most important thing, and we've got to put it first and make sure that all the people that represent that brand create a good image.
Amen. I think that definitely leads to like talking about the culture, because when you talk about the brand, I feel like it's one and the same. What do you guys feel like Derby Foods culture is based off the limited information we were given?
I agree. Go ahead, Elvis.
No, I was just thinking, will not be a tough job for Mary, for the vice president to talk into him, because according to my impression was that York, like Simon, had kind of double personalities. Like my impression is when he talks to his leaders, superiors, he was nice about it. He was all like, especially when he needed something, he was all nice with them. So my impression that when she's gonna invite him to her office and talk to him, he's not gonna be on his defense right away, according to my impression that I had. So,
well, a brand has an image, and I guess that image is basically considered a culture, right? So they're both kind of synonymous.
Well, if Mary doesn't, yeah, that's really tough, because if York really is like what you're saying, Elvis, then he's going to tarnish the brand. He's going to tarnish the culture of Derby Foods, because he's being two-faced, and he's really ruining morale on a production level but he's keeping it high at a management level, and that's eventually what they're going to see. Is they're going to see people working on floors getting so discouraged that they're going to start quitting, and then what's going to happen?
Yes, that's what. I mean, that's what's going to happen if it doesn't pull back. Many people will get off that bus. But as Ted mentioned on his personal life story, like that's what happened. And the other thing is that the culture that is in Derby is pretty good in somehow, because even this guy, he could go right to the vice president and complain, and she heard him, because usually there are some companies who this little guy doesn't get any voice. He has to go a lot of managers chains to get to the top one.
That's a really good point. So what do you think? What do you think, Elvis, is the best approach by Mary? Does she just let it go? Does she?
No, I mean, definitely she has to call him in the office and tell him. I mean, if he wants to go back to his old position when he feels better that way, or maybe because this was first time as manager, he was stressed out. He wants to give a good impression to because everybody, though, I got this new position, I have to show off my skills.
Mm-hmm.
Which he did. I mean, he did a good job, but he lacked on the other. He forgot that he was a manager. He has to lift up these people and not just take them down. So definitely she has to call him in and chat with him. I think something else, she has to talk to even with his past co-workers, his ex-co-workers, because this other teammate, probably if he had this behavior in the past, they probably noticed it in the past too. So I think she has to talk to his ex-co-workers too, like before he got promoted to this manager position.
Do a little bit of investigating then, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really
because as I said, we don't have the big picture. He may have something going on at home, and he's venting at work,
Yeah. No, that's super true. You guys have I definitely thought this was a lot. I don't know, I guess I took it seriously, but at the same time, I didn't recognize like the how intense York was, and so like my thoughts are taking a different tone as I talk with you guys. That's for sure. Let's see. Yeah, I guess is Ted gone?
No, he's still here. I think his camera is off.
Oh, are you still here, Ted? Okay, we'll just keep going. Okay, what do you feel like are some of the key things that need to be discussed? Here, we're right here. What do you think are some of the key items that should be covered when Mary and York have their discussion?
I mean, she has to start with, let's say, appraise him and says, you did a good job. I mean, just lift him up first. You have this is your skills. This is what you did good. And then she has to go like, look, this is what I heard too. I mean, I have reports that you're not doing such and such.
Mm-hmm. I think an important part of that is, like you said, going and talking to his past coworkers or people that he's managed in the past to kind of gather some. I don't want to say gathering gossip, and that's a fine line that you have to make sure that you don't cross over. But it does kind of need to gather some information so that she can present it in a way that's, hey, I've heard from multiple people, so it doesn't throw anyone specific under the bus. Because I think if she goes to him right after hearing from Shelbourne only, then he's going to know, oh, Shelbourne is the one that told her this. And then he's going to he might be a little bit harder on him next time, or he might treat him differently because of that. So I think you made a good point in talking to other coworkers. I don't know if that makes sense, but that way when she presents like, hey, I've been hearing some complaints, then not tempted to question or to treat anybody specifically poorly because of that.
I didn't pay. Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I didn't pay much attention to Mary as her personality, as her trait. I mean, I didn't pay much attention to her, but we may find out that she doesn't like to discuss. I mean, she doesn't like to confront people. She may be the type of person that she doesn't want to confront him and maybe let him go and be afraid of him. So,
Yeah, oh, definitely.
but
Well,
I didn't. Yeah.
I think though
Maybe
that
oriented by the numbers. You saw, oh, he did good. Let the guy alone. Don't touch him because he did good.
yeah, definitely. I would hope that she talks to him though, because yeah, I don't know. I've worked in places where the management has been a little bit too abrupt and too forceful and has too high of expectations without communicating them. And it really does a lot to destroy the morale. It really does a lot. And I feel like if more, it's really that production team that is able to re-energize Derby Foods as well as it has said that it's been re-energized. And so I think that, I don't know, I guess one of the approaches would be also to maybe suggest that this would be a different, later on in the discussion, once she's earned his trust and everything, would maybe suggest that York works with one of, or whoever was the brand manager before, because it seems like if they've been crawling upward, Derby Foods, that the previous brand manager, I hope, was doing something right. I know that he had worked there for a really long time, as it says in the study, and so that's why he stopped. But I don't know, maybe he could pick his brain a little bit. I kind of see it similar to the Semlar case study, if you remember that from last week. Ricardo Semlar, when he took over his dad's business, and then he just totally flipped it around, like just 100%, like did a 180. And I feel like that might be what York is doing. And it worked out for Semlar really well. And then he came and found his own happy medium, luckily. But I feel like York is somebody who gets stressed out easily, and who cares a lot about his image. And so I don't see him finding the balance as quickly as Ricardo Semlar. And so working with the previous manager could definitely do some good.
Yeah, every manager technically should call him to the office and discuss the concern that other employees have. But that would be, let's say, my suggestion to Mary. Just
absolutely.
go into the office and explain him that, I mean, that's the point. Like, you don't have to go straight to the, like, oh, you did this wrong this time, don't do it again. You're just trying to smoothen up the conversation and see maybe he can open up and maybe has something going on, or maybe he noticed that he pushed too much on his coworker.
Yeah, I think that the essential thing is certainly creating trust, and also it's like it says in the feedback, coaching feedback PowerPoint. It's so essential that you collaborate, and I think reinstating, even if it said it somewhere in this PowerPoint that when you tell somebody that they are something, they start to believe it more, and you start to believe it more. And I think being able to reiterate what the company culture is and tell York, like, hey, I know that you want what's best for this company, just as I do. And so how are we going to work together to lift morale amongst like the production line? How are we going to communicate with our employees better, and just, hold herself to the same standards that she would hold York at, but kind of let him define those standards. I think this is a really difficult thing to do. I don't know. Have you ever been a manager before?
No. I mean, no, not at that kind of position.
I recently, or maybe you've had some experiences with good managers or bad managers.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, well, compared to my manager I have right now, so when I just do mistakes or when she has to come in and talk to me, I mean, she starts with positive and negative, and she starts to open up, and it's not just saying like, oh, look, I'm perfect and look at me. She's like, look, I do this wrong, you do this right, I do this right, you do this wrong, but I have this complaint from other people, can you fix this, and stuff like that. And as I said, during this conversation, that it should be an open conversation, not just attack him directly, because if you attack me, I'll be in my defense right away. It's a brain mechanism. It doesn't, even if I don't want to. And the thing is here, you can discover during this meeting, this conversation, that maybe he's not a team player. Maybe he likes to play solo.
Mm-hmm. I kind of wonder if Derby Foods does like a bi-weekly or is it bi-monthly? If they do regular interviews with the managers. I know my husband's company does that right now, and it's really cool because it gives his boss an opportunity to tell him what he's doing well and what he would rather him focus on. But it also gives my husband the opportunity to tell his boss, like, here's where I need you more. Here's what I think you need to improve on. And here's what I need from you. And I thought that was really awesome because it becomes part of the culture to just constantly improve. It becomes part of the culture to be open and vulnerable with each other and to be okay with like the criticism. When you do it more often, when you offer feedback more often, it becomes less of a big deal and it just becomes more natural. And I feel like this is something
you get to know it more in personal level too, like
exactly, yeah. It kind of feels like, well, in that first paragraph, it seems like they might have this type of culture based off of how Shelbourne was able to go directly to Griffin, like you said. But later on, when Griffin's kind of perplexed about York, I wonder if it's so distant, you know?
Ted wants to go get back in here, but he can't. He's saying.
Oh, let me invite him.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. 1 second. Edgarham 1. Alrighty.
Yep.
All right, hey Ted.
Hey, can
Just
you
to
hear me?
summarize. Now you're back. Well, we talked for a little bit, but we discussed.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, awesome. Wow. Okay. It's on my computer working now.
Okay. So pretty much
Okay, good.
we were discussing like how to approach that meeting when she's meeting him and what she has to say, what she doesn't have to say, and how to approach that meeting with him.
Okay,
Or
so
we mentioned even the other options. She may not want to talk to him and she want to leave it go, let it go, and leave things like they are.
she's going to talk to him.
Yeah, that's what my idea is too. So.
But let's talk about that for a second. Is there a benefit? Because we read this week a lot about feedback, but is there a benefit? Is there a time and a place when we shouldn't say anything?
In a situation that is happening with them right now, they have no choice but to talk to him because, you know, he's had 2 conversations with production team and with in the presentation in front of management, and in 2 instances he has, you know, one he's berated, well, in both instances he's berated fellow employees, and so you can't let a manager do that because it creates a poison. And of course, when you're management, if you let a manager start doing that to you, then your employees start rebelling. So
right,
you have to fix it because you need to hold a brand as a team. And he might think that you know, he led that marketing. He might have led the marketing campaign, but there's other people that worked with him, and he's got to learn how to give other people credit. So the meeting has to happen. And so have you discussed how the meeting is going to go at all yet?
Well, we talked about it, but you know, you can share your thought.
Well, okay, my thoughts are that number one, she's gonna, you know, she's done a little research and she's probably gonna want to you know, and talk to a few people and ask them about, you know, what's he been like with you, etc., and ask other members of the management team what they've observed, and then you come up with a strategy. And like I said, when you go into a meeting with them, you sit down and you empathize and say, we understand that you're you know, there's specific ways you're supposed to say it, but you're a good employee. You've done a lot for this company, and you know, and I guess you don't want to say these words, but you want to infer that we want to keep your job safe, but we need to how do I want to put it? We need to change your character a little bit, and she's going to need to be specific about the instances that she needs to show him after she's showed empathy. She needs to show him basically by saying, these are the things you said to your team members and to the production people. And then give him a chance to talk about it, right? And, you know, I mean, there's a specific behavior he has, and that is that he can't accept mediocrity. So he's got to expect the team members are as good or better than him. Well, I don't think he wants anybody to be better than him, right? So, but she's got to be prepared for this meeting because she's going against a type A personality, and she has to deal with that personality. And so she has to bring the level of the meeting down so that they can have a discussion, because he's going to learn in that meeting how to discuss, because she's his superior and she's going to sit with him and coach him right in that meeting and show him how you talk to an employee. Because when she gets done with that, you know, then she wants to go back to him and say, this is how we work with each other at the company. And you know, you kind of set the example and say, this is how you should deal with other individuals. That's my thought.
Yeah, well, pretty much it's the same thing here. And I might come to the conclusion that he maybe is not a team player. He just plays, he does his own thing, and it's not like.
And she's going to find that out.
Yeah.
And so I guess, but you never want to count somebody out. I think that an individual like that is, you put your heart and soul into a company. You're not going to just walk away, right? And so they're not going to make this a big public scene. They're going to take this, you know, behind closed doors, and then he's going to have the opportunity to, you know, hopefully realize that, yeah, maybe I've been a little harsh, and she's going to show him how. She can also show him how important those other team members are to him.
I think what you hit on earlier, Ted, was so important. I really liked what you said about she should say, hey, this is what you've said to these employees. Boom. And then just let him talk. And she can tell what his character is as soon as he starts talking, whether he says, yes, that is what I said to the production line. I've been really stressed. I'm really sorry. I need to apologize to them. Or whether he says, no, I never said that. Who told you I said that? Or whether he tries to give some other lame excuse for why he says it. You know, a lot of a person's reactions will kind of define what their character is like, and allow her to kind of decide what direction she wants to take for the rest of her feedback, whether she's just like, okay, well, he just kind of does his own thing. This is going to be a difficult, long process.
Yeah.
Or, you know, how she needs to coach him. That's something that I personally struggle with, having been in some management positions.
Yeah. Well, it's also, in that discussion, she's going to show him, she's going to express to him the impact that he's had on his team, on his other team players, right?
Right, exactly.
Because if he doesn't understand that impact, because he doesn't understand it, he hasn't seen it, because nobody's confronted him. So he needs to understand the impact and the repercussions it has at the company. And of course, you know, hopefully he's smart enough to realize that, you know, I'm just one person out of how many hundreds of people in this company, and are they going to get rid of other people that I chew out, or are they going to, are they going to get rid of me? And
Right.
so I think she's going to approach that meeting, and she's going to listen to him, right? And the more you listen, I had a boss like that. When he had a problem at the old company, the old vice president that I answered to, and if you had a problem, you'd come to my office and we'll have a chat, and he would listen. And after you talked to him for 5 minutes, you just felt great, because he'd say, "Okay, I understand that," and he'd chat with you a little bit, and it would be done, and you'd move on, because he was just that kind of person. And I think that's what she's going to need to do. She's going to need to be able to calmly get into this subject and listen to him.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's super awesome.
If he doesn't respond well, then it's another discussion, right? But,
right. It's a whole other case study.
And they haven't given us any of those answers of what's happened. They just gave us the case. What would you do?
Right, exactly. And I think what we've come to a common agreement on is, number one, she needs to talk to him. Griffin needs to talk to York no matter what. There's no letting this one slide, because it's having negative implications amongst the production team, which could thereby spread to the rest of the company, tarnishing its culture, tarnishing its brand. So number one, we know that she's going to talk to him. Number two, we know that she does need to start out with some positive feedback and be clear about that and its impact, being very specific. But she also needs to not beat around the bush in terms of, what she's observed, the feedback she's gotten, and what those implications have been.
Yeah. No.
And then she needs to coach him.
When you think about this, if you look at his actions internally in the company, and he just made a presentation to management, right? Let's say he would have been in front of the Winter X Games management group making a presentation, and there was a mistake. Okay. Now, what would they think if he started saying, "Oh, there's a mistake. My team members really screwed up. I'm sorry. They're so bad." Now, what do you think of that individual who just put down his team?
Not someone you want to be working on your team, that's for sure.
Number one, you've got that individual that you think, "I don't want working for my people." Number two, they might just say, "Well, we might not like this, and we're going to go with another brand."
Right.
And so that one singular thing that can happen right there can ruin your brand, because you're involved in a very public event, and people find out that you were, basically hunted, and that hurts your brand.
Right.
So he, like I said earlier, he's a reflection of not only the people in the company, but he's a reflection of the brand. He's the brand. If he's presenting that company, to the Winter Games, he's the brand ambassador. And is that the guy you want to put out there?
Right. No, you gotta.
He's got some rough edges, and they want to smooth them off.
Yeah, you got to teach him how to represent the brand and the company a lot better. Absolutely.
Okay. I'll shut up. I can talk all night if you want me to, but
no. What do you do for a living, Ted? Do you manage? Because I feel like you've got a lot of really good insights.
I am a regional manager for my company. I retired a year ago, and I was getting kind of bored, and a company called me out of Texas. I live in Canada, and they asked me to represent their brand in Canada. So I am their brand ambassador in Canada, and I've learned you always defend your team.
Sorry,
Okay.
say that again. It cut out a little bit.
I say I'm the regional sales manager in Western Canada. I'm their and so I'm the only one here. I'm their brand ambassador here. I represent all of our distributors of our products, our company, and so I certainly can't go to my distributors up here and put down my company, because it's just you don't do it. So I speak highly of the people I work with because they're great people, and I'll take responsibility if something happens because ultimately somebody has to.
Mhm.
And so you have to learn to. Sometimes you didn't like how something went, and a customer is not happy, and you learn to. And somebody else on my team does something that I didn't like, but I'm ultimately responsible. So I take responsibility. And that's just
In
how.
in one of my other classes right now, we're learning about the Hofstede measurements. I don't know if you've heard about those, but it's 6 different measurements that each country can be measured by to help determine like what their culture is. So it's helpful for international business.
Yeah.
Knowing how to interact with different countries, for example, like the U.S. interacting with China or something like that. Lots of cultural differences. And I feel like there's one factor called individualism. And the higher you score on the individualism scale, the more you're just concerned about yourself and your immediate family, and all your decisions hinge on like what's best for me, what's best for me.
Well,
But the countries that are low on the individualism scale are more like, okay, it's like what you were saying, like I just need to give this counsel immediately, even if it's going to be hard for me, even if I'm going to have to swallow some pride, even if it's difficult, because the ultimate important thing is how the company is represented and how we work together. And so I don't know, I made that connection. I think that we could adopt a lot less individualism and more, being loyal to our village, loyal to our community, loyal to our company and its culture. So,
okay.
but anyways, you were just talking about how you'll go immediately to help the customer and you'll do what's best for your company right away.
My culture, we have it's really people oriented. We're oriented on making people the best they can be in our company, right? And so ultimately, you want to be a good team player, and the company I work for is a worldwide company. If I mess something badly enough here, it can transcend to other countries, and so you have to always put the brand first. I represent the brand, and the brand is more important than my own personal interests. Period.
That's crazy. That's awesome. Good for you.
And this guy, York, hasn't got that down yet. He's still operating as an individual, representing a brand when he should be a team member representing the brand, making the brand the most important thing there is.
Right. Or he's too bent on managing and not focused enough on leading.
Yep.
Yep.
I think we're running low on time, but I summarized a little bit of that at the end. If you guys are okay with us moving forward on that, unless you have any other last comments.
No.
But
I mean, we don't have to fill the whole time as long as we're done.
Yeah. I was gonna say really quick. Do we want to just email each other about who's taking the lead? Do you want me to just email you guys that document? Or do you want to do it really quick? Yeah.
Who wants to do it? Do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it, Elvis?
Doesn't matter.
When is our next one?
That's the other thing we need to talk about is when we want to have our next meeting.
So we can email when Julia, she can be into.
Yeah. Do you guys want to just email about it after this?
Okay.
Are we going to have another meeting about this topic, or are we going to do it?
Oh, no. Another topic, another case study.
So it'll be one meeting a week. So each week it'll be a new case study.
Okay, well, I'll do it. I have no problem with that if you want me to.
Okay, I'll just email you the information.
Sure, that would be awesome.
Okay.
Let me know, like the next case studies, what do in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Because we don't have one every week, do we?
I haven't looked that far ahead. I think I thought we did every week, but
Oh, well, if we do, that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my impression too. We have one every week.
I say we keep in touch over Gmail right now because my BYU Idaho mail isn't reaching you guys, I don't think, and so.
Is our due date every Tuesday night?
Yeah, I'll email it. We'll email about it, and then we'll make sure that that works for everybody else, and then we'll go from there.
All
I'm
right.
good with Tuesday nights, so.
And so, McKenna, you're gonna
Email me the
post the link.
I'll do the next one.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm saying at the end of this video, so she's gonna post the YouTube link to the discussion board.
Yes, I will post the YouTube link,
Yeah, that's
and I will email it to you guys.
okay.
Just
All right.
like that.
Okay, very good.
Sounds good. So
All
we can
right.
see
Well,
each other.
thank you guys so much.
Thank
All
you
right.
all.
See you next
Thank
week.
you.
Bye.
Have a great evening.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you.
Nice